More away from my home, my pillow, my office, my university, my family, my books, and my friends. How many hearts do I need to deal with this? But still, I am under the light of the moon, one light for everyone. Moon, can you hold me with you to Gaza? One look is enough for me. Let me see it only once. The moonlight feels closer now than the distance to my home.
We are writers in Gaza. We write because silence is not an option. Writing is how we survive. It's how we remember who we are. Hello, I'm Shahid Naami, a writer, poet, and translator from Gaza, Palestine. Together, we are Coastal Line Press. We are a collective of writers in and from Gaza. We turn our words into zines, and these zines are a collective of poetries, essays, and testimonies that carry stories of survival, resistance, and hope. There are so many volunteers from all over the world that they are supporting with illustration, laying out, translation, printing, and distribution. Each zine travels farther than we can. These are our words, our lives, and our resistance. We are the writers of Gaza, and we will keep writing.
Questions on my mind, musings about Gaza, my home, and the things I've lost. Written by Dima Mahed Ashur. Under the southern sky, the moon hung low, lighting the dark of the streets. I look up and see no tents, no occupation. Why don't we live in the sky? I gaze at the moon, it faceless, me filled with questions. What happened in Gaza? I don't believe the news. Are you still going there? Or are you unable to return too? Its light flickers gently, as if to reassure me. I imagine it casting its gaze upon familiar streets, the streets where I laughed with my friends, Ranin and Farah, and grumbled with Noor on the way to our 8 a.m. lectures. Now, only my photographs remain. Is the Islamic University of Gaza, my university, still standing? I read in the news that the Israeli soldiers were not satisfied with destroying it once. They destroyed it dozens of times, killing my professor, Rifat al-Arir, stealing my dreams of graduation and my happy memories too. Is the door of my house still black, or is it smeared in the blood of the martyrs in Gaza? Tell me, did Israel destroy my home? Are there still children in Gaza? Let me know, Moon. Are the children still laughing in Gaza? The displaced don't laugh here. Do they still play in the sand? Or is the world too heavy for them? My voice trembles. Are there still children in Gaza, or did Israel kill them all? Do you remember my tears when the municipality came to uproot the mulberry tree to open a new street? If I had known, I would have saved those tears for the day Israeli bulldozers came and wiped away all the trees. Did they leave at least one branch? Tell me, can you hold me with you to Gaza? I gaze again at the moon, feeling nothingness. How did so much time pass us by? How did I spend a year and more away from my home, my pillow, my office, my university, my family, my books, and my friends? How many hearts do I need to deal with this? But still, I am under the light of the moon, one light for everyone. Moon, can you hold me with you to Gaza? One look is enough for me. Let me see it only once. The moonlight feels closer, closer now than the distance to my home.
We are writers in Gaza. We write because silence is not an option. Writing is how we survive. It's how we remember who we are. Hello, I'm Shahid Naami, a writer, poet, and translator from Gaza, Palestine. Together, we are Coastal Line Press. We are a collective of writers in and from Gaza. We turn our words into zines, and these zines are a collective of poetries, essays, and testimonies that carry stories of survival, resistance, and hope. There are so many volunteers from all over the world that they are supporting with illustration, laying out, translation, printing, and distribution. Each zine travels farther than we can. These are our words, our lives, and our resistance. We are the writers of Gaza, and we will keep writing.
Questions on my mind, musings about Gaza, my home, and the things I've lost. Written by Dima Meher Ashur. Under the southern sky, the moon hung low, lighting the dark of the streets. I look up and see no tents, no occupation. Why don't we live in the sky? I gaze at the moon, it faceless, me filled with questions. What happened in Gaza? I don't believe the news. Are you still going there? Or are you unable to return too? Its light flickers gently, as if to reassure me. I imagine it casting its gaze upon familiar streets, the streets where I laughed with my friends, Janine and Farah, and grumbled with Noor on the way to our 8 a.m. lectures. Now, only my photographs remain. Is the Islamic University of Gaza, my university, still standing? I read in the news that the Israeli soldiers were not satisfied with destroying it once. They destroyed it dozens of times, killing my professor, Rifat al-Arir, stealing my dreams of graduation and my happy memories too. Is the door of my house still black, or is it smeared in the blood of the martyrs in Gaza? Tell me, did Israel destroy my home? Are there still children in Gaza? Let me know, Moon. Are the children still laughing in Gaza? The displaced don't laugh here. Do they still play in the sand? Or is the world too heavy for them? My voice trembles. Are there still children in Gaza, or did Israel kill them all? Do you remember my tears when the municipality came to uproot the mulberry tree to open a new street? If I had known, I would have saved those tears for the day Israeli bulldozers came and wiped away all the trees. Did they leave at least one branch? Tell me, can you hold me with you to Gaza? I gaze again at the moon, feeling nothingness. How did so much time pass us by? How did I spend a year and more away from my home, my pillow, my office, my university, my family, my books, and my friends? How many hearts do I need to deal with this? But still, I am under the light of the moon, one light for everyone. Moon, can you hold me with you to Gaza? One look is enough for me. Let me see it only once. The moonlight feels closer, closer now than the distance to my home.
We are writers in Gaza. We write because silence is not an option. Writing is how we survive. It's how we remember who we are. Hello, I'm Shahid Naami, a writer, poet, and translator from Gaza, Palestine. Together, we are Coastal Line Press. We are a collective of writers in and from Gaza. We turn our words into zines, and these zines are a collective of poetries, essays, and testimonies that carry stories of survival, resistance, and hope. There are so many volunteers from all over the world that they are supporting with illustration, laying out, translation, printing, and distribution. Each zine travels farther than we can. These are our words, our lives, and our resistance. We are the writers of Gaza, and we will keep writing.
Questions on my mind, musings about Gaza, my home, and the things I've lost. Written by Dima Meher Bashur. Under the southern sky, the moon hung low, lighting the dark of the streets. I look up and see no tents, no occupation. Why don't we live in the sky? I gaze at the moon, it faceless, me filled with questions. What happened in Gaza? I don't believe the news. Are you still going there? Or are you unable to return too? Its light flickers gently, as if to reassure me. I imagine it casting its gaze upon familiar streets, the streets where I laughed with my friends, Janine and Farah, and grumbled with Noor on the way to our 8 a.m. lectures. Now, only my photographs remain. Is the Islamic University of Gaza, my university, still standing? I read in the news that the Israeli soldiers were not satisfied with destroying it once. They destroyed it dozens of times, killing my professor, Rifat al-Arir, stealing my dreams of graduation and my happy memories too. Is the door of my house still black, or is it smeared in the blood of the martyrs in Gaza? Tell me, did Israel destroy my home? Are there still children in Gaza? Let me know, Moon. Are the children still laughing in Gaza? The displaced don't laugh here. Do they still play in the sand? Or is the world too heavy for them? My voice trembles. Are there still children in Gaza, or did Israel kill them all? Do you remember my tears when the municipality came to uproot the mulberry tree to open a new street? If I had known, I would have saved those tears for the day Israeli bulldozers came and wiped away all the trees. Did they leave at least one branch? Tell me, can you hold me with you to Gaza? I gaze again at the moon, feeling nothingness. How did so much time pass us by? How did I spend a year and more away from my home, my pillow, my office, my university, my family, my books, and my friends? How many hearts do I need to deal with this? But still, I am under the light of the moon, one light for everyone. Moon, can you hold me with you to Gaza? One look is enough for me. Let me see it only once. The moonlight feels closer, closer now than the distance to my home.
We are writers in Gaza. We write because silence is not an option. Writing is how we survive. It's how we remember who we are. Hello, I'm Shahid Naami, a writer, poet, and translator from Gaza, Palestine. Together, we are Coastal Line Press. We are a collective of writers in and from Gaza. We turn our words into zines, and these zines are a collective of poetries, essays, and testimonies that carry stories of survival, resistance, and hope. There are so many volunteers from all over the world that they are supporting with illustration, laying out, translation, printing, and distribution. Each zine travels farther than we can. These are our words, our lives, and our resistance. We are the writers of Gaza, and we will keep writing.
Questions on my mind, musings about Gaza, my home, and the things I've lost. Written by Dima Meher Ashur. Under the southern sky, the moon hung low, lighting the dark of the streets. I look up and see no tents, no occupation. Why don't we live in the sky? I gaze at the moon, it faceless, me filled with questions. What happened in Gaza? I don't believe the news. Are you still going there? Or are you unable to return too? Its light flickers gently, as if to reassure me. I imagine it casting its gaze upon familiar streets, the streets where I laughed with my friends, Janine and Farah, and grumbled with Noor on the way to our 8 a.m. lectures. Now, only my photographs remain. Is the Islamic University of Gaza, my university, still standing? I read in the news that the Israeli soldiers were not satisfied with destroying it once. They destroyed it dozens of times, killing my professor, Rifat Al-Arir, stealing my dreams of graduation and my happy memories too. Is the door of my house still black, or is it smeared in the blood of the martyrs in Gaza? Tell me, did Israel destroy my home? Are there still children in Gaza? Let me know, Moon. Are the children still laughing in Gaza? The displaced don't laugh here. Do they still play in the sand? Or is the world too heavy for them? My voice trembles. Are there still children in Gaza, or did Israel kill them all? Do you remember my tears when the municipality came to uproot the mulberry tree to open a new street? If I had known, I would have saved those tears for the day Israeli bulldozers came and wiped away all the trees. Did they leave at least one branch? Tell me, can you hold me with you to Gaza? I gaze again at the moon, feeling nothingness. How did so much time pass us by? How did I spend a year and more away from my home, my pillow, my office, my university, my family, my books, and my friends? How many hearts do I need to deal with this? But still, I am under the light of the moon, one light for everyone. Moon, can you hold me with you to Gaza? One look is enough for me. Let me see it only once. The moonlight feels closer, closer now than the distance to my home.
We are writers in Gaza. We write because silence is not an option. Writing is how we survive. It's how we remember who we are. Hello, I'm Shahidin Naami, a writer, poet, and translator from Gaza, Palestine. Together, we are Coastal Line Press. We are a collective of writers in and from Gaza. We turn our words into zines, and these zines are a collective of poetries, essays, and testimonies that carry stories of survival, resistance, and hope. There are so many volunteers from all over the world that they are supporting with illustration, laying out, translation, printing, and distribution. Each zine travels farther than we can. These are our words, our lives, and our resistance. We are the writers of Gaza, and we will keep writing.
Questions on my mind, musings about Gaza, my home, and the things I've lost. Written by Dima Meher Ashur. Under the southern sky, the moon hung low, lighting the dark of the streets. I look up and see no tents, no occupation. Why don't we live in the sky? I gaze at the moon, it faceless, me filled with questions. What happened in Gaza? I don't believe the news. Are you still going there? Or are you unable to return too? Its light flickers gently, as if to reassure me. I imagine it casting its gaze upon familiar streets, the streets where I laughed with my friends, Ranin and Farah, and grumbled with Noor on the way to our 8 a.m. lectures. Now, only my photographs remain. Is the Islamic University of Gaza, my university, still standing? I read in the news that the Israeli soldiers were not satisfied with destroying it once. They destroyed it dozens of times, killing my professor, Rifat al-Arir, stealing my dreams of graduation and my happy memories too. Is the door of my house still black, or is it smeared in the blood of the martyrs in Gaza? Tell me, did Israel destroy my home? Are there still children in Gaza? Let me know, Moon. Are the children still laughing in Gaza? The displaced don't laugh here. Do they still play in the sand? Or is the world too heavy for them? My voice trembles. Are there still children in Gaza, or did Israel kill them all? Do you remember my tears when the municipality came to uproot the mulberry tree to open a new street? If I had known, I would have saved those tears for the day Israeli bulldozers came and wiped away all the trees. Did they leave at least one branch? Tell me, can you hold me with you to Gaza? I gaze again at the moon, feeling nothingness. How did so much time pass us by? How did I spend a year and more away from my home, my pillow, my office, my university, my family, my books, and my friends? How many hearts do I need to deal with this? But still, I am under the light of the moon, one light for everyone. Moon, can you hold me with you to Gaza? One look is enough for me. Let me see it only once. The moonlight feels closer, closer now than the distance to my home.
We are writers in Gaza. We write because silence is not an option. Writing is how we survive. It's how we remember who we are. Hello, I'm Shahidin Naami, a writer, poet, and translator from Gaza, Palestine. Together, we are Coastal Line Press. We are a collective of writers in and from Gaza. We turn our words into zines, and these zines are a collective of poetries, essays, and testimonies that carry stories of survival, resistance, and hope. There are so many volunteers from all over the world that they are supporting with illustration, laying out, translation, printing, and distribution. Each zine travels farther than we can. These are our words, our lives, and our resistance. We are the writers of Gaza, and we will keep writing.
Questions on my mind, musings about Gaza, my home, and the things I've lost. Written by Dima Meher Ashur. Under the southern sky, the moon hung low, lighting the dark of the streets. I look up and see no tents, no occupation. Why don't we live in the sky? I gaze at the moon, it faceless, me filled with questions. What happened in Gaza? I don't believe the news. Are you still going there? Or are you unable to return too? Its light flickers gently, as if to reassure me. I imagine it casting its gaze upon familiar streets, the streets where I laughed with my friends, Ranin and Farah, and grumbled with Noor on the way to our 8 a.m. lectures. Now, only my photographs remain. Is the Islamic University of Gaza, my university, still standing? I read in the news that the Israeli soldiers were not satisfied with destroying it once. They destroyed it dozens of times, killing my professor, Rifat al-Arir, stealing my dreams of graduation and my happy memories too. Is the door of my house still black, or is it smeared in the blood of the martyrs in Gaza? Tell me, did Israel destroy my home? Are there still children in Gaza? Let me know, Moon. Are the children still laughing in Gaza? The displaced don't laugh here. Do they still play in the sand? Or is the world too heavy for them? My voice trembles. Are there still children in Gaza, or did Israel kill them all? Do you remember?
Okay. Good evening. We would like to start, so please take your seats. Okay. Good evening. Thank you for being here. My name is Abir Kupti, and I will be moderating this event. First, I'd like to say Eid Mubarak for all those celebrating. May we see a free Palestine maybe next Eid. And today actually marks the Mother's Day. Mothers in Gaza are celebrating, I don't know if I can use this word, but also across the Middle East, mothers are celebrating the Mother Day. So also may this Mother Day be a blessing for all mothers. I am very honored today to moderate this event to introduce a new collection of stories by 4 young Palestinian zines writers from Gaza. This is a new series that we're launching today of the project Zines from Gaza. Few words about the project. Facing the censorship and cowardice of publishing houses, Coastal Lines Press emerged as a collective of writers in and from Gaza to publish their writings in the form of zines from Gaza. The project aims to turn words into life-saving supplies for them and their families. The new collection we are launching today, Indicia, focusing on alternative archives through imagination, materiality, and Indigenous Authority. We will discuss today what does it mean to archive a place while it's being erased. How can imagination be both rigorous and resistant? What stories emerge when we write from the perspective of land, concrete, and seeds, rather than only human voices? This three-story zine carries experimental approaches to documenting, imagining, and witnessing Gaza. Across three distinct yet connected stories, the authors explore an alternative timeline where collective land systems continued uninterrupted. The material truth and deception of concrete infrastructure, and the perspectives of non-human others who live alongside us in silence. Rather than providing a testimony, these zines practice what the authors call grounded imagination, creative work deeply rooted in research, oral history, ecological knowledge, and material reality. Together, they refuse the flattening of Gaza into a single story, instead offering multiple temporalities, scales, and perspectives that cannot be reconciled into one neat label. Reading some, like the stories, I feel like in many ways, they take us outside of the language barriers imposed on us by the genocide. Please read their writings, make sure you buy their zines outside. This could be the best aid, al-Fitr gift you could give. Donate to the fundraising campaigns of the authors, follow them on their social media accounts, amplify their stories and writings. All the event proceedings will go to the support of the writers. Before I introduce and welcome our writers, I'd like to welcome Athansia, Karan, and Leila, who are co-volunteers in this project, just to ask them a few questions and introduce the project. Please welcome them with me. Maria. Okay, sorry. Okay, great. So I'd like from you to know, like, feel free, whoever wants to jump in, a little bit walk us through the technicalities behind the project, like from the idea until the zine is published. Who are the people behind this project, working with the writers to make it happen?
I could say thank you, Abir, for being here. Thank you all also for joining us today, and Eid Mubarak to all of those celebrating, and happy Mother's Day to our West Asian mothers. Yeah, and thank you for welcoming us over here. I also want to point out that we have volunteers outside and in the room, and Coastal Lines is really a grassroots collective of volunteers who are all around the world, working closely with authors who are in Gaza or from Gaza, who want their voices to be heard, who want to publish their stories, but can't. So this is what we do, and Karan is actually someone who's worked very closely as an editor with lots of our authors, and he can talk us through the day-to-day of zine making.
Yeah. Hey everyone. So yeah, I'm Karan. I'm one of the editors. Working with the writers day to day is emotional beyond anything else. Very technically, the writers will interact with the writers, get in touch with them, they'll get in touch with us, and we'll come up with an initiation for the project. We assemble a team. My role as an editor is to really, besides the editorial grammatical stuff, is to really tell the story. and that involves spending time with the writer, hearing about their vision, what they want to get out of, what message they want to get out of the zine itself. And so beyond just editing, like the grammatical stuff, it's sequencing the zine in a way that tells the cohesive story of what needs to be told, and really understanding that from the perspective of the writer. And that takes a lot of interaction and empathy and patience and back and forth. And I think it's very, very, very touching. It's a very touching process. Yeah.
So I work mostly on the hands-on aspect of printing and binding the zines, which is very, also very emotional in a different way. Seeing them, seeing the stories and from the different authors, and putting them together and having this book at the end, which is, it's just really moving, and I'm very honored to be a part of this collective.
So I'm Maria. I am working as one of the illustrators on some of the scenes, and also helping with binding, distributing. And I mean, for as an illustrator for me, so when I joined one of the projects, I mean, first it was very emotional to even go through, like, just read the zine and try to like think of visuals, which can be, I think, even more like emotional in many ways when you read about like the destruction of things, about people losing like their children, their families. And then I'm trying to think of a visual that will convey this, yeah, in a way that also works with what the author thinks of when they write this scene. So it's also a lot of communication with the author and kind of discussing like some conceptual ideas, stuff, rough drafts, and kind of talking back and forth with them of like whether I'm able to convey what they want like readers to feel, because I think visually it does make a pretty big impact on you. Like the first thing you see is like the cover, right? So the illustration, I think, also helps convey. And I think, yeah, I guess the biggest thing is just trying to do justice to what they would like to convey. Yeah, so I'm also very honored to be a part of this project.
Thank you all. One question before we move to the writers. I'd like from each one of you hear something that you have learned throughout this process.
I think just like realizing the power of words from these authors, and I think learning that it's about conveying their voices rather than, you know, your take on what you think they might be feeling or want to convey from the zines. Yeah, and I think just like for me, it was like a way that I could contribute to just amplifying their voices, and, you know, learning ways to do this a bit more directly than just, you know, sharing posts on social media, which I used to do before joining the project. So it feels like, yeah, a bit more helpful, I guess, for me.
I'm just blown away every time another zine comes up, and it's just every single one is more beautiful than the other. And I love it. I love the community. I love the imagination that goes in it, the creativity, and the people surviving genocide are able to have this, their voices amplified, and the dignity, and to, yeah, it's just very, it's very humbling.
I'd say like, not like every zine is not just has a place, but it's needed, because every story I've read, every person I've worked with, no matter how similar you can consider the themes, the stories are very, very unique. And each one of them need to come out and be read because they represent other people, including the writers themselves. but it's also a way to not get lost in the numbers, which is something that is very easy to do. So every time there's a new zine, I get very excited because there's a new perspective and a new individual story that's not just representing a theme itself, but an actual person, and it's a reminder that we need to keep bringing these out, to bring those stories out. Yeah.
Thank you. Everything everyone said, and I feel like I could talk for hours about the things that I have learned so far. And I guess I will say that the main thing is I want to acknowledge that learning doesn't stop. It happens every minute of every day, and I find myself personally growing from all of this, having to unlearn a lot of that I know, having to accept that I don't know everything, and even the things that I thought I knew, maybe I never did. It's been a very humbling experience. And I'm so grateful to find myself in a collective of over 300 people from all over the world, literally from all over the world, and to work so closely with authors in Gaza. Some of them are some of my closest friends now. And I guess one final word maybe is we have to be willing to take risks and do things that we're not necessarily comfortable with. People in the collective, they have all different levels of skill sets. Not everyone is a professional at the thing that they're contributing, and that's okay. So there's room for making mistakes and room for learning, and that has to be okay. It can be scary to put yourself in a situation where you're going to fail, but I find that we need to reframe this. This is not failure. This is us, falling to get back up again and learning how to walk better together. And the time for revolution is ripe. And if we don't do things differently, and if we don't take risks, nothing's going to change. And I feel very lucky that we're doing this together.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm really glad we had this moment. We just planned it last minute, but I think it's important also to acknowledge the people who are behind the scenes. Okay, so now please welcome with me. I'd like to welcome our writers who are joining us today, Taqwa, Ahmad and Shahd. I will introduce them. I just want to note that Shahd al-Naami, another writer who has contributed to this zine, will not be, unfortunately, will not be with us today due to illness. Please welcome with me Taqwa al-Awawi. Taqwa is a Palestinian writer, poet, and editor from Gaza, studying English literature at the Islamic University of Gaza. Her work, Amplifying Voices from Gaza, has been featured in leading international and regional outlets, such as The Guardian, Al Jazeera English, The Intercept, The Nation, The Middle East Eye, and others. Taqwa is originally from Zarnuqa village. Are they? Okay. We won't have video. Just because of the internet connection in Gaza. Shahd al-Naouq is a Palestinian writer, poet, and translator from Gaza, studying English literature and translation at the Islamic University in Gaza. Writing from the heart of Gaza's midnight, she transforms survival into language. For her, being Gazan is a fusion of blood, loss, and love. It's an identity she preserves on paper while bombs outpace sleep. Her words are not just writings, but fragments of a heart that refuses to be silenced. Shahid is originally from Deir al-Balah. Ahlan, Shahid.
Hi.
Ahlan. Hi. Ahmed al-Khawaja is a Palestinian writer and storyteller from Gaza City. His work explores how time moves through people, how memory, loss, and resilience shape both individual and collective experience. Through fiction and creative projects, he seeks to capture the subtle intersections between history, emotion, and the present moment. Ahmad is originally from Hamama village. Ahlan Ahmad.
Hi, hello.
And Shahd Naami, who will unfortunately not be with us tonight, but I will introduce her. Shahd is a writer, translator, and English literature student from Gaza. Writing has always been her way to preserve memories, amplify voices, and document the truth of her homeland. Her work has appeared on platforms such as We Are Not Numbers, Al Jazeera, Mondowise, Electronic Intifada, and others, where she focused on stories of resilience, culture, and humanity in the face of hardship. Shahd is originally from Bir al-Sabah. So, Ahlan Shahd. Okay, so I would like to start with a few questions about the issue as a whole in general, and then we will dive into the stories you have written. I'd like to start, it's a question for each one of you, and maybe we start with Shahid Naouq. Could you tell us a little bit how this issue was born, from the idea, the process? تفضلي شهد.
First of all, it's my really pleasure to be here, and I'd like to say some things about the project at all. The idea did not come from rejecting anything, it came from accumulation. So many stories were already being told before, like stories that carried weight, urgency, and the truth. And instead of asking, what is missing, I found myself asking, what else is already here, but unnoticed? Not instead of those stories alongside them. I started paying attention to things that were always present, but never centered. Things we touch every day, things we depend on without thinking, things that exist with us and around us. The project began when I stopped looking for a new story and started listening differently to the same place. And once I did that, the world did not feel bigger, it felt more layered, as if the same space could hold more than one way of being seen, more than one way of speaking at the same time. So that project comes. I'd like to give the space for Ahmed because it's actually its idea, and it was a really amazing idea, and I'd like to let him tell you all about it.
شكرا شاهد. تفضل أحمد.
Hi. So the idea wasn't so fancy in its creation, just as in many ideas start and begin. It was, we were having these casual Friday conversations with Layla. We were talking about Coastal Line Press, about the Zine process, about the publishing industry, about partnerships, and about everything you could think of. So our conversation ranged from politics to publishing to writing to complaining about hot or cold water, about the weather, about the sun. We really talk about everything. So one time at one Friday we were talking, and then Layla mentioned, oh, there's a place in Berlin who's interested. Nice, who they are. And then we were introduced to Spore Initiative, and she was looking through their events and publications, and she shared a link to a project, an exhibition called Unsettled Earth, and it took us by surprise, really. It was something really good, it was interesting, and the perspectives and ways of implementation was really good. So we were talking about that, but not for much, we didn't have the idea yet. We talked about, okay, the idea is good, maybe we can do something else, not particularly like Unsettled Earth, but you don't know. So we talked and we talked, and many Fridays came, many ideas accumulated, and then we decided, okay, this is so good. Why not have it all together? Have these 3 stories, build to a full special zine that is experimental, that is taking new perspectives and including new ways of thinking about things that we take for granted, basically. And this is how the idea for the zine came. It originated from Spore and developed more and more with Layla and us. And here we are. Like, I don't know how we got here. We have a zine now. Yeah.
Great,
So,
Ahmed. Shukran.
yeah.
Yes, you do have a zine. Great one. Taqwa, you want to add something maybe?
Hi, nice to see you all. Well, to building on what Ahmed said, the idea actually started with him and his vision, and it eventually turned into something powerful. I do believe of this. Actually, the process was really great, even though the timeline was quite tight. But for me, this was also the first time I wrote in an experimental style like this. Well, Ahmed was kind enough to walk us through everything and explain the concept, and we had several meetings along the way to make sure everything came correctly. And everyone really rose to that challenge, including Sam, who worked on the illustrations and contributed to bringing the work to life. And Layla and the editors at Castle Line Press were also very supportive throughout the process. And everyone involved played an important role. And here we are.
Shukran, Taqwa. I'm going to ask also a question. It's kind of couple of questions into one, and you choose which one you want to answer to. But you talked about like there is 3 themes: land, concrete, and non-humans. You bring 3 different perspectives, which refuse to let Gaza into one narrative, but also you move from one story to another. And I was wondering what each story tells that the other can't. Ahmed, would you like to start?
Yeah, sure. If Taqwa or Shahid, if you want to take it.
Yeah, you can
Sure.
take it. Ahmed.
Okay. So these 3 stories take, or I would say, tackle the same thing that originates, or the genesis of the zine. We do acknowledge that Palestinians, sadly, are the center of the news. I'm not talking in a negative way. That's good. You need to mention and humanize the Palestinians in the news, but that's also there are other things that are forgotten about the whole experience, being under genocide and under occupation and under so much pressure, and being in a geographical spot that is so valuable for empires and colonies and everything. Everyone wants a piece of you, basically. So the first story talks about an alternative history to Palestine, basically. So we're going with the dialing the clock back even before the occupation, the Israeli occupation, and going even before the British mandate to Palestine. So we are starting before the mandate and creating and thinking of an alternative history in which neither the occupation nor the mandate happened to Palestine, and history and time just continued just like any other place in the world without any of these atrocities and nakbas that happened to us. And through this story, we are also seeing how not only we are centering not only the Palestinian, which is the human, we are centering land, which is the land of Palestine, the soil, as the center of the story. So we are seeing through the eyes, quote unquote, of the land. We're giving it agency, a voice, emotions, and a thinking head, in which we are seeing how land is helping the farmer, how land is also helping a car pass, how it's helping children go to school or somewhere else, the fishermen, the teacher, and everyone else within the Palestinian society at that time and after that time. So we're not talking only about 1980s, or we're expanding with time. The second story talks about, so the first story is in the past with a stretch to the future. The second story is talking about present time, at present real time, like our time, human destructive time. So we are seeing how since the, I would say since the establishment of the state of Israel, and more intensely since the beginning of the genocide in 2023, we are seeing how concrete is not only being this so innocent material, but also another subject of the war that is attacking Palestinians, but also is what is trying to shelter them from the attacks. So there is a duality that we think that is real, and that needs to be talked about even more, because at one end we see how concrete can build houses, and at the other we can see it how people just fall under them and be crushed to dust, basically. The third story talks about neither the human, neither on concrete. So we're taking a look about other things and human beings and non-human beings within Palestine that lived through the genocide with us. So the plants, the animals, the birds, the fish, the ships, and everything other than the Palestinian human, to see that it's not only genocide to the people, it's also genocide to the place, to the environment, to basically everything. So these three stories are trying to take, or trying through them, we are trying to make or have a fisheye lens through to all of the other genocides, to other things that are happening to the Palestinians. Yeah.
Thank you, Ahmed. Taqwa, I'll move to you, and if you can, as I posed the question, but I remind you, like maybe you can talk about how each tense allows you to tell a story that the other can't.
Well, tense is not simply a grammatical choice. It is a way of resistance, memory, presence here. So let me explain this to you through the three stories I wrote. So in my first story, What the Earth Remembers, the past allows me to reconstruct a continuity that violence tries to interrupt. The story is told from the perspective of the land itself, the soil remembering footsteps, water channels, markets, schools, and generation of people who moved across it. So here, the past tense allows me to hold time in layers. It lets the land speak as an archive. It remembers the Musha system, collective, the rhythm of harvest, the sound of bees, and children running through groups. So, here writing in the past becomes a form of historical grounding, a way of saying that Gaza, Palestine, and places like my original village, Zanuga, didn't begin with destruction. They held life, knowledge, and system of care long before. But in my second story, in What the Concrete Holds, the present tense carries a completely different weight. The present doesn't allow distance. The concrete walls narrate the life of a boy growing up inside them, his first steps, the toys on the floor, his books, his father illness, the walls that slowly crack, the structure that protect them. And present tense makes the story um, immediate and material. It forces us to witness how everyday life and violence exist at the same time. The same concrete that shelters also collapses. The same structure that protects becomes the structure that burns. So writing the present tense means the memory is still unfolding. Then we come to my third story, What the Olive Knows. Time behaves differently again. The olive tree experiences time in cycles rather than linear history. It watches generation come and go. The old one, the climber, the chill, the family that returns and shelters beneath its branches. And you know, the tree doesn't measure time through dates or words, but through growth, season, weight, and absence. So, you know, writing through the perspective of the olive tree allowed me to explore a slower ecological sense of time. Here, human life appears briefly in the tree's lifetime, yet the tree becomes a witness to both care and destruction. So each tense allows a different form of knowledge. The past remembers, the present witnesses, and the logical perspective stretch time beyond the human scale. So, you know, together they resist the idea that Palestine, Gaza exist only in a single moment of catastrophe. No, they insist on a deeper, longer, and more complex story. And that's it.
Thank you, Taqwa. I will connect with that to pose a question to Shahid about the existing narrative, because you also say that these shifting between the different perspectives is refusing to let Gaza be narrowed into one narrative. Can you explain a little bit what do you mean by that?
Of course. Now, this one is talking about their house being bombed. That one is talking about water lines. Another is talking about when his friend was killed. This one writes about food shortages. That one about living in a tent. Another about missing her family. Another about children dying from starvation. Someone else about high prices and not being able to afford basic needs. And other one is about being pulled out from under the rubble. Now, at some point, I felt like there were forgotten things, not even people reduced to numbers, but things that were not even allowed to become numbers. So I imagined an argument between humans and everything that is not a human. And these other beings were saying, you keep saying we're not numbers and you are upset about it. We would accept even being numbers, but no one is speaking about us at all. The mallow, the mint, the orange, the banana, the moon, the dates, they were protesting in my mind. And suddenly I felt something digging into my back, like stones being thrown at me, and a voice saying, hey, look at me, write about me. If your writing fails anyone, then it's unjust and you are failing us. I froze. Failure, injustice. These words hit me because there are things I never want to touch, and I hate the possibility of causing them. Another voice came into my head. Ghaz is not limited in only specific narratives. There are other beings here that have never been mentioned before. I said, okay, I'm here. Don't worry, I will write about you. I picked up the pen and the notebook. I kept thinking, who do I start with? Who do I start with? Who? Then I knew the mallow. So I began with writing a story. I let the mallow speak. I let it express some of its quiet grief. My gut softened a little, but it didn't disappear. Then another voice came. You are ungrateful. What about me? How many times did you make tea with me? Tea? My God. Whom is speaking? Then how many times did you pull me out of the ground for your neighbors? I said, okay, the mint. But I could feel that something else around me was unsettled. The familiar stories, the common narratives felt diminished and left out as if I was reducing their importance. So I said, I'm the writer here. I have to hold the space for all of you. Listen, familiar stories, stories of love, stories of war, of water lines, of people suffering like me, bombed homes. Without you, the world would not have seen Gaza. Without you, I would not have been invited to speak. There would have been no curiosity, no attention to us. Without you, we might have remained under the rubble, unseen. Without you, Gaza would not have reached people. We would not have knocked on the doors of them. We would not have entered their homes through our zines. We would not have been heard even. You are necessary. You deserve to be read. You deserve to be shared. But do not be upset when we bring in experimental stories. Do not be upset when the ment speaks. It has been silent for 2 years. Let it speak now. Do not be upset when the dates express themselves. Then my bed started shaking. I felt like an earthquake. I was afraid. Who's doing that? What's going on? Then Ghazza spoke. She said, I'm trying to get your attention. All of you, listen to me. Shahid is right. I'm not a single story. I'm not one perspective. What bothers me, what has always bothered me, is being trapped inside one narrative, like being locked in a single room and told this is all you are. Imagine this, like you are kidnapped, you are tortured, you do not eat, you do not sleep, your whole body is in pain, your hands hurt, your legs hurt, your eyes hurt, and your head and everything. Then a doctor comes and asks, what are you suffering from? And you answer with just one thing, only the headache. The rest of the body stays silent, as if the pain in your hands does not exist, as if your legs are not breaking, as if your eyes are not burning. And suddenly, that one answer becomes the whole story. This is what it feels like. I nodded. The familiar perspectives welcomed the new ones, and I, the writer, returned to the page. The results are the stories that were put in today's zine. They found their way into it.
Thank you, Shahid. Okay. Okay, it's hard to make a move, but I'd like also to go through, like, I planned this to start with the general, but also to move to speak specifically about each story. And I've asked each writer to read a piece of their writing for each story. So with the first story, it will be Ahmad, then Shahid, then Taqwa. So I'd like to move to talk about each theme. We'll start with the imagination, the land. And Ahmed, I would like to begin with your reading, please, and then I'll ask you a question. تفضل Ahmed.
Sure. So my story is called It Is Time. It is time for the bees to fly and the flowers to wake. The valley's water is a cool vein across my face. The butterflies and birds dance everywhere. The seeds fly in the sky and fall on the ground. I move the ones that fall in the water, to plant an empty patch or give company to another tree. The sun climbs high and yellow above me, rays and waves. Under the branches, in the glimmering shadows, a dove tries to catch a berry swimming in the valley. Too young to fly, too slow to run, it sprints. The berry swims under the trees before the houses. I open a new path leading to new fields, closer to trees the dove never saw before. A haystack and a lonely house, a new path to a new path. The rest you have to read from the zine.
Shukran, Ahmed. And Ahmed, we've talked about it a little bit, but I'd like to hear from you. How do you walk between limits of history and creative freedom?
Yeah, throughout the project, it was a real challenge. So I always think that Palestinians have used, and I always believed believe that Palestinians have always used storytelling as both teaching and survival method, especially under surveillance and occupation. So the story passes all of the stories pass, or the first, I'm sorry, the story passes between generations and stories pass between generations were never just an entertainment for entertainment's sake. And it was very, very clear that the occupation and other colonial forces are deliberately trying to cleanse and wipe everything that is oral history or written culture that is related to the Palestinians. So for Sounds in My Pockets, we used what I would call research-based fiction, in which each of us went on a personal journey into Palestinian archives, oral histories, and family members' histories and what they recall from their own cities. To revisit our ancestor cities before colonial rupture and before the occupation. We tried to map the geography of the place through its agriculture, its social life, the rhythms, and the smell of places. And then after deep research into our original places and cities or villages, we would fuse that with creative fiction to inhabit that place. So we are re-inhabiting that truth, basically. So we are building on facts and fusing them to fiction. So the fiction not only, it's not fiction per se, but it complements and completes what archives are missing and what present day, if in an alternative history, Palestine, in the present day, what would they look? These villages and these places, these fishermen and the sellers. So we are putting a body in the landscape that, and also we have the ability to hear a wedding, to see the fishes and smell the oranges at the same time. So there is a balance, but the imagination that we are putting into these stories or into these facts, it's never to replace the evidences that is present in the archives, but only to complement it. So in this way, we're able to close some gaps, but also at the same time, close the generational gap that happened with us, because the Israeli occupation was successful in killing so many of the elderly, in that the Palestinians have never written that much of their folklore and their stories, and always depended on passing them orally. So in this way, we are also reviving what we are finding in the archives to pass it even on to the next generation of Palestinians. We also are in an ongoing return to our roots, and we also think that the future generation would do the same.
شكرا أحمد. تقوى, since this theme is about imagination, I wanted to ask you if you think imagination is a form of resistance or a form of escaping reality, or could be both.
Well, imagination becomes resistance when it is rooted in reality rather than demolished from it. So in our zine, imagination is not fantasy, as Ahmed said. It is built from research, oral history, ecological memory, and material observation. And that's why in the first story, I gave the land a voice. The land recalls systems that historically exist, communal cultivation, channels, grooves, and shared labor. So here, the imagination doesn't replace evidence. It animates it. It allows the land itself to narrate a history that official archives often fragment or erase it. Then, in the second story, I give the concrete a voice. Imagination, let me say, becomes a way of listening to material objects. And as we all know, concrete is a material, but here it becomes a witness. It holds laughter, grief, learning, illness, and war. So the imagination is not escaping reality; it is moving deeper into it, asking what the material world remembers about us. Then the olive tree, I give it a voice. So here it allows a non-human life from to exist on its own terms. The olive tree doesn't exist to symbolize human suffering. It observes birds, seasons, warmth, and pressure in the air before explosions arrive. So the story attempts to imagine how the world might feel if perspective were rooted in bark, roots, and slow growth rather than human urgency. So I do believe imagination is also a refusal of silence because if we don't tell our stories, the world will only hear the story of the Israel occupation, and that's not acceptable because storytelling is not separated from belonging. It's proof it. So imagination in this sense, it's not escape. It is a way of a narrative, a presence, and the right to exist in history.
شكرا تقوى. Shahid, you also talk a little bit about that you write from the position of belonging to the land. And I wonder if that is different than owning the land. And in what ways? Shahid?
Yes, I'm here. Just
تفضلي.
now, I remember that once I overheard my father in a moment I did not fully understand at the time. He said, or that time water was scarce. There was barely enough for us, and even what we had was not really drinkable. At the entrance of our house, my father had planted flowers. Because of the shortage, he stopped watering them for a few days. Their color changed, they turned into that strange gray. They wilted. We thought they were dead. My father said, no, they're not dead. We can still save them. He searched for water and eventually found some, then watered them carefully. 3 days later, they completely dried out. Their leaves disappeared. That was when we realized that the water had been too salty. It turned out to be seawater. And the flowers could not survive its salt. They died. I remember hearing my father as he walked past them. He was speaking to them. He said, this is my fault. I failed you. I did not taste the water before giving it to you. That moment stayed with me. That was the first time I understood the difference between owning the land and belonging to it. I remember thinking, we already drink water that is not safe. Everyone is dealing with stomach infections. And I was wondering, my father was not treating the land as something he owned. He was treating it as something he belonged to. The question shifted in this case. It was no longer, what does he get from this land? It became, what does he owe it? How does he take care of it? How does he make space for it in his daily life? How does he do his best to meet its needs? How does he keep it alive, content, and beautiful? The same shift happened in my writing, and that is what changed. Not the land, but the way I stand in relation to it. When I wrote from the position that I belong to the land, I found myself stopped speaking about it. Instead, I started letting it speak. Not in the usual way, where I brace it or describe my feelings toward it or list what I have lived on it. I let it talk about itself, what it has lived through, what has passed over it, what hurts it the most, what might make it feel better, what it likes and what it rejects. I let it complain, laugh, refuse, rest, woke up. And because the story is set before the British Mandate and before the occupation, the experience of writing it was different. I returned to that time. I touched the dates as they would have been. I saw them. I compared their size to what they are now. I imagined their taste. I heard people gathering them together. I imagined the shape of the neighborhood, the houses, the smell of the air. The body became geography in this case, like something of the land, not something moving over it, as if it were just a ground, surface, or structure. Not something that uses it and leaves, but something that belongs within it. If I care for it, I'm caring for myself. If I take from its fruit, it's not because it is passive, without a will or without a voice. It's because it allowed me to. It's not about how many kilos of dates were harvested. It's about how many families were fed, how many hands took part in gathering them. This causes me feeling like if I touch a tree anytime softly, it feels it. It has always felt and it will continue to feel. In the story, the illusion of control disappears. The human is no longer managing the land. The human is cooperating with it, caring for it, sometimes more than for himself, not focused on extracting the most from it, but on whether it is happy or not. Even language begins to shift, like an internal awareness that interrupts at the mid of sentence. I would stop and correct myself. It's not my land, but the land that holds us. And in the end, even the idea of death changes. Death is not disappearance, not an ending, it's a return. Whoever dies does not vanish. They go back to a place they have always been part of.
Thank you, Shahid. I really think this event should have been longer, to be honest. Okay. Shahid, thank you so much. I actually, we want to move to the second story, and I want to ask you to read the part. The second set of stories is about materiality and concretely about concrete. And maybe Shahid, you can read part of your story in this section.
To concrete, you protect from rain, you protect from the sun. But why not from rockets? Why do you harden yourself against water and soften yourself before missiles? Let me tell you something. You collaborate with rockets. I'm not being aggressive when I say that. You are the one who leaves no room for mercy. You should have turned into a feather before you fell on a newborn weighing 3 kilos. You should have become weightless. Yes, a feather. I'm not insane. You are the brutal one. How do you fall on an elderly body whose bones are already fragile, already fractured by time? How do you collapse over a gentle young woman who cannot carry a full bucket of water, who cannot lift a stone, and yet you drop on her as an entire ceiling, as a full wall? Do you know who I am? I'm a spirit. I come in the name of the spirits of those who died because of you. They sent me. I come carrying several messages, each from a different soul.
Thank you, Shahid. I will move to Ahmed to ask you something about this theme, materiality. Because in this, like the transition from the first theme to the second is like communal land ownership is replaced by a development plans, because concrete is a really central theme in the development plans. How you address this in your writing, Ahmed?
So this is one of the central parts. All of the stories are central, but this is one of the heaviest topics to connect to all of the first and the third story. So after thinking about this, or while thinking about this story or this concrete, the only word that comes to mind is interference. So I do remember at the same time the Native Americans to our west, the Tamils and the Tibetans to our east, Lebanon to our north, and Yemen to our south. So there is a connection through all of these places and all of these struggles to us Palestinians and Palestine as a place. So this part of the zine, yes, indeed, it does talk or put focus on architecture and concrete as a material and a promise at the same time, meaning the buildings of concrete and glass, and the think of tomorrow phrase that is usually or all the time said to the indigenous. But I also invite you to see the other hidden architecture that is not very much seen through this theme. So there is architecture that is inside you, inside the Palestinians, inside every one of us on this planet. So our ancestors have resisted colonization, and we in the global south are now resisting colonization and imperialism combined. Our ancestors were not did not have concrete hearts or homes, and they were not individualistic by any means, neither in their mindset, nor their language or words, or their way of life. And this quote-unquote development is trying to rebrand individualism and erode communal resistance that is needed for survival. So there is an attack, or a subtle attack, that is taking place in this development, quote-unquote, that in this way it's trying to kick the indigenous and their knowledge out of fashion and out of official institutions and records. So the colonizers will come, destroy your city and its artifacts, and then simply try to sell you the promise that sell us this promise that is filled with lies, and that the tomorrow is better, and tomorrow you will have a concrete house and concrete development. So they are replacing the indigenous and the multi-generational knowledge and all of the rich histories with this concrete, as I said, total BS, total lies, that is also total concrete on top of people without caring who they are, where they came from, and what color or what history do they have. Like the weight, they totally ignore it. So there is a duality. There is so we're seeing how old Palestinian villages that were built with mud, that is similar to the human, that the cities were built from natural resources, have been destroyed, and now the occupation is promising us a better tomorrow, a Dubai, a Singapore, a New York in Gaza that is built and based on total concrete lies. And that's how I would like to finish answering this question.
Thank you, Ahmed. Taqwa, is writing about what is destroyed help you reconstruct?
Yes, for sure. Because writing what has been destroyed is complicated actually. Because it is never only one thing. When the house collapses, the narrative doesn't end with the explosion. The concrete remembers the boy's breathing, his toys, his handprint, his reading, his drawing on the wall. The destruction removes the physical structure, but the story insists that memory remains embedded in the material itself. So, writing destruction becomes a form of reconstruction, not rebuilding the building, but rebuilding the presence of the life that filled it. It's also mourning the act of writing acknowledge loss without reducing the people to that loss. but it's also resistance. Destruction often attempts to erase not just bodies, but histories, relationships, and everyday life. So, writing the details, the books, the drawings, the small gestures restores the complexity to life that might otherwise be reduced to numbers. And I do remember Edward Said once said, history is made by ordinary people, by men and women, not just by leaders or politicians. And I do agree with him. And for the Palestinians, all the Palestinians, this means the history belongs to us, but can also be erased if we remain silent. So writing becomes a way of refusing that erasure, a way of insisting that even what has been destroyed, it still holds presence, memory, and meaning.
Thank you, Taqwa. Shahid, هيك a brief question. I think it's not just you, many of you, and also us, I think, and I am sure many people in Gaza have so much anger at the cement, the concrete, but also at the same time hope, right? Like, because this is how you needed to build your houses, rebuild Gaza. How do you explain this complex of feeling?
Now, for this question, like everything in this life has two denotations or two meanings. There are things that could be positive and negative at the same time. Also, concrete is a thing, and it has the both sides. Now, concrete reminds us all of the idea of rebuilding, of life, of to have a home, to have your own house, the place that you are comfortable in. So it has a meaning that is not just for me, for all people, that gives you a peace for some moment. But on the other hand, when we hear this word concrete, because all our memories or most of our memories are related to where to genocide, to concrete holes on a woman, a child, a window, for example, holes on someone, your beloved one or something. So concrete for me personally is both, but I'm trying via my fiction and imagination to always try to always imagine that concrete has a meaning, has a positivity, has a life, has dreams.
Thank you, Shahid. I'd like to move to the story number 3, plural presence and indigenous authorities when non-humans speak. And would like to start with Taqwa. If you please read a part from your story in this theme. تفضلي تقوى.
Hi everyone. Okay, I'm gonna to read the final part of my third story titled What the Olive Knows. She looks. I see her looking. Sound again. Different. Coming fast. Many. Sky fills. Not birds. Something else. Falling. Everywhere. Ground shakes. Keeps shaking. Does not stop. I feel roots dear. Deep. Where no light reaches. The small branch breaks. Falls. She is running. Then not running. Smoke covers everything. Thick, dark. I cannot see her. Cannot see anything. More falling. More shaking. More. I do not know if she reads. I do not know if she is still there. I do not know if anything is still there. The sounds stop, but the smoke stays. Thick, dark, for a long time. When it clears, I see nothing. No shelter, no clothes, no small feet, no hand on my trunk, just grey, just dust, dust where things used to be. I wait for her love, for her steps, for her fingers on the small branch. Days pass. I do not count. Rains come, wash more grey, but she doesn't come. The new branch gives fruit. They hang, fall. No one takes them. Another season, another. I stop waiting, not because I choose to, because waiting has no meaning when nothing returns. Below, roots hold what they hold. Old ones' hands, climber wet, smaller ones warm, very small ones first sounds. Above, nothing comes. No feet, no hands, no voices. I'm still here, but I do not know if here is still here. The hill is quiet. The sky is quiet. I'm quiet. Maybe she will come. Maybe she won't. Maybe there's no maybe left. Thank you.
Thank you, Taqwa. Taqwa, I will stay with you and ask you how did writing from a non-human perspective changed the way you see Gaza?
Well, writing from non-human perspectives, it changed the skull of the story. In the story that I give the voice for land, Gaza becomes a geological and cultural archive. The land remembers seeds, markets, peace, and the movement of families across generations. Then, in the next story, Gaza becomes a material structure that absorbs human life, every love, every argument, every breath, every crack from war. The building itself becomes a keeper of memory. And in the last story, Gaza becomes an ecological timeline. The olive tree experiences humans not as central figures, but as passing presence. It feels their warmth, their shelter beneath its branches, their disappearance. It continued growing even after destruction. But let me say, they revealed the reduction of Gaza to a landscape defined only by siege and destruction. They reveal it as a placement of relationships between people, land, materials, plants, animals, and time. So when we allow non-human voice into the narrative, we also challenge the idea that Gaza can be summarized by headline or a number. Instead, Palestine becomes what it has always been, a living system of memory, a life that contains to observe, hold, and grow, even when everything else is being erased.
Thank you, Taqwa. Shahid, I wanted to ask you something which I think you addressed in the first round of questions about how you chose the elements you wanted to speak on behalf in the story of the non-humans. I think you talked really beautifully about your story with the mallow and mint. So I instead would like to ask you if you can share with us one story where you really paid attention to something that is non-human, that it was really like marginalized, no one was talking about it, and really like made you open your eyes about something, maybe later inspired your story, I don't know.
The air smells rockets and dust. Now, before I begin answering, I just want to say that I have a special relationship with both mallow and mint and dates, and those are the three characters that I chose at my three stories. Now, the air, for example, the air smells rockets and dust. We need something that smells good. Mint. My son is crying, his stomach hurts. Mint. We want a warm drink, a quiet moment to remind us that we're human, to remind us that we have a sense of taste, to remind us that what we don't just to drink, we don't just to drink, just to survive, but to feel meant. We make a salad, we want something that sets it apart, something green, meant. We need to plant beside the tent, something that feels like life, like nature is still standing with us, meant. We make lemon juice, but lemon alone has become too familiar. We want another taste to remind us that there are still varieties, still colors, meant. We need something small to sell in the market, simple but enough to keep movement alive, to feel that life still circulates, that green still exists. Meant. I am tense, my stomach tightens, everything feels like loss and pleasure and pressure. Meant. A mosquito bites me. They say strong-smelled plants can keep it away. Meant. My little sister has been coughing all night. The virus has reached us. Meant. Our neighbors come over. We want to offer them something fresh. There is nothing left in the market to buy as a gift. Meant. We want a thing to remind us that things can renew. Problems do not last forever. Even a siege might end, and freedom is still possible. Meant. So, I think, aren't these enough to give it a voice? Most likely, I did not choose it to be a character. It settled inside my mind, and my mind refused to think of anything else. My stories would not allow any other character in.
Thank you, Shahid. I think this is my last question. My last question to Ahmed before we open the floor for the audience. Ahmed, do you think the non-human temporalities you address in your different stories, seasons, plant cycles, animal memory, do you think they can challenge the human political life?
I do, and I do strongly believe that. So our human political time is the crisis time, the checkpoint time, the airstrike time, the ceasefire time, the headlines, the wars, the genocides, the empire's time. That's what we have done as humans, and this is not good. So the human time is a time that is always being cut, manipulated, and weaponized against another humans. And occupation, in my belief, is a total technology of time. So and we see it as Palestinians, especially in the West Bank. So it freezes people, accelerates erasure, amputates futures, and just shuts people off of their future and the opportunities that are presented before them, and they cannot do anything. So a fig tree wouldn't and doesn't know that there is an apartheid wall through its roots. A seed under a bombed house will try to grow nonetheless. And an oil tree doesn't consent to the settlements beside it, but it just continues to grow. So the zine, with its stories, has a universal message to everyone. So the zine's message is also my message, that we as humans, just as animals, insects, and plants, are also citizens of this earth. We belong to Earth, and there are simply no spare planet for us. We as human species need to deflate our ego and remember that we are part of this ecosystem. We do belong in the cycle of life, not above it, and certainly not controlling it in any way.
Amazing. Thank you, Ahmed. Honestly, I really would like to thank you, all of you, because it's really like this. I hope you agree with me, but I mean, this evening opens a lot of perspectives, also questions, opens minds, opens visions. and teaching us a lot about how we can resist reducing Gaza into rebels, indeed. I'd like to open the floor for Q&As. If you have any question, please go ahead. If you want to address to one writer, all of them.
Hi. So first, thank you for connecting them for the Zine. I wanted to know, I guess concentrating in these subjects has been a process of elimination. So you have left something out. I would like to know what subjects didn't make it in the Zine and maybe will make it in the next one. And also a question about language, because you write here in English. I wanted to know, how does it feel different for each of you to write in English or in Arabic? Thank you.
Let's start from Taqwa, and then Shahid, and then Ahmad. I think Taqwa is not there anymore.
Yeah.
Okay, Ahmad, would you like to go first?
Shahid, would you like to go first?
Yes,
Yeah, go ahead.
تفضل الشاهد.
I think that writing in another language, not yours, is a challenge. But Coastal Line Press has a lot of volunteers that actually helped us in this issue. I think that, and I'm wondering that how most of them are not Arabic, and most of them understand some little Arabic, but it's truly useful. Like when I had the chance to, or when I had the problem of not being able to explain myself in English, sometimes I'm so shocked by some volunteers in coastal lines that they know some things in Arabic and they say it like just and through it to let me know that even if you don't know or you don't have the ability to express yourself in English, just let me know the idea in your language and I'll try my best to transfer it, which is amazing and awesome. So I think, yes, it's a big challenge, but when you have supporters and when you have someone just like Layla and a lot of volunteers that tell you immediately and in any time, even if you don't have the ability to express your thoughts in English, then just tell me the idea in any language you'd like. We'll use translators, we'll ask, we'll do a lot of things just to know your idea. And if you feel that even your idea is silly, just say it. And this is itself is an assistance and a really awesome thing to have. So we can say that the language is not a challenge that can limit your thoughts or limit your ideas, so that can pretend or that can let you just stop and never say things or never try to write a zine or never try to join such a work because your language is not English. It's not like that. Just go ahead and you will find people that will support you.
Thank you, Shahid. Ahmad, do you want to add anything?
Okay, I'll try to be brief as much as possible. So regarding the first part of the question, I did have, like personally, I'll speak in my personal capacity. I did strike on a deal with Layla on not to kill any of my characters within these 3 stories, because I do have that tendency. And I did actively omit blood as an element of humans and nature in these 3 stories because of its political symbolism and because of how heavy it is to talk about blood, especially after all of that, what is happening to the Palestinian right now, and what is happening around the world, in Iran, in many other places. It's really difficult to talk about that. So I did actually omit that by choice and actively. The second part, I think, yes, it is challenging to write in English, not because of proficiency, but because of how English in its nature is different to Arabic. So in our Palestinian dialect, and I do believe in also Levant dialects, there is this communal language that's inherent, or that is there. I'm not sure how to explain it, but it's just there. The sense of community is always up in the air and in the language, and you don't sense it. And when you do switch to English, there is a sense that it assumes individualism at the same time. So it's hard to push from one side, how the language is centered, to how we think and how we do believe in Arabic. So we're using a Western language to explain Eastern ideas and beliefs and stories at the same time. So there is a challenge, and I do think that the editors do a superb job in balancing this story and the ideas and the language. So there is a relevance to non-Arabic readers or those who did not have the chance to visit our region. So you do get the best of all worlds, and I do believe that our editors are amazing. I am biased. So that answers your question. I hope I was clear and direct.
Shukran, Ahmed. Any other questions? No. Okay, then. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Again, I would like to thank Ahmed, Taqwa, and Shahid for being with us. It was such an amazing evening, a lot of revelations and things we should carry and think about. Again, I want to encourage you to buy their zines outside, support their fundraising campaigns, follow them on social media, amplify their voices, and look out for new zines, right? There will be more. This project is alive and it's happening, and it's going to continue with help of so many volunteers. And there will be more zines with more writers and maybe more events soon. Thank you so much, and have a good evening. Free Palestine and genocide, because it hasn't ended. We have to say that all the time. Thank you. Very happy.